Today is actually going to be a side dish that I'm going to teach you how to make, and this is a recipe very similar to Whole Foods Cracklin Cauliflower, and it basically is cauliflower roasted in an oven, but that has curry and fennel seed and red pepper flakes, all sorts of spices involved in it. But first I'm going to start out with the head of cauliflower, and I'm going to cut it around the stem, almost like you would a pumpkin. Like if you're cutting the top on a pumpkin, that's how I'm going to take this off. So I've just cut it angled like a pumpkin as I suggested, and so it's starting to fall apart a little bit. And I'm just going to pull out the core, if it will come one-handed. And then I'm just going to, take away these leaves and all that jazz. And then I'm going to cut these into little florets so that they're little pieces, because the more little pieces you can get, the more flavor each piece is going to have when you eat it. Once you've got the cauliflower all broken up, then what I suggest is put it in a mixing bowl. And, well, I rinsed it first, obviously, that's why it's in the strainer. But I'm going to put it in a mixing bowl. And then it also calls for red onion. I put an entire red onion in there because I like the flavor of red onion. And this red onion is just chopped up, and then I'm going to add some olive oil as well. You want 1/4 a cup of olive oil, and I sometimes add a little bit more, just because it depends on the size, obviously, of the red onion and of the head of the cauliflower as to how much oil that you're going to need. And this oil is going to help the all the spices adhere to the onion and the cauliflower, as well as help it from not burn in the oven. Okay, so the next steps for our cauliflower are lemon zest and ginger root being minced. And so I actually saw on Rachel Ray one time that she suggests peeling the ginger root and then freezing it. And so then I just keep it in a freezer bag like this, and it's a lot easier to grate ginger root that way. So I've got about, I'd say, like a half a tablespoon of each, and I'm just going to put that into the cauliflower red onion mixture and mix it around. You want a half a tablespoon of fennel seeds, about 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, so this is obviously has some heat to it because of that, and then another half tablespoon of curry powder, so that's half tablespoon. And I said red chili flakes, or red pepper flakes, but I meant red chili flakes, so those are red chili flakes. One of the spices that you want to throw into the cauliflower is garam masala. I'm not sure if I have pronounced that correctly. I have only been able to find it at Whole Foods. It's a mixture of spices typically used in Indian food, including black pepper, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, cumin, and coriander. So you want a half tablespoon of that, and we will put that in with the cauliflower. The recipe also calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I like to use the minced garlic just because it keeps longer and I can use it in a number of recipes. So I just do a spoonful, and I'll mix it around with the spices. Okay, so I added pepper to this, and then I'm going to mix it all up. But something I was thinking about while I was adding the pepper is, you've got this lemon and you've taken off all the zest, what's left to do? One of the great things you can do is just dice it up and use it in ice water if you're serving ice water for the evening, or You can always use it for like a green smoothie the next day. There's a number of ways so that this doesn't go to waste. I just added a little bit more olive oil because I thought that it was a little bit dry, so I just wanted to let you know that, if you're mixing everything up and it doesn't look oily enough or wet enough, then you want to put more oil on there because, again, the oil is going to help everything adhere to one another, and it's also going to help everything from burning once in the oven. Now what you're going to do is just dump this into a Pyrex 9x13 pan. And I just, there's always like oil and other goodness at the bottom, so I like to spread that evenly. Sometimes take a spatula and get all the rest of it out. And then you're just going to spread it evenly in here so it cooks. And actually, while it's cooking, every 10 minutes you're going to want to have your tongs and flip all of the cauliflower. So ideally you want your cauliflower to be spread evenly in a ungreased 9x13 Pyrex dish. I only had one, but I made 2 sets of the recipe. So I've got one recipe divided into 2 smaller Pyrex dishes and one in one full. And this is going to cook for 30 minutes. Every 10 minutes I'm going to toss the cauliflower so that it cooks evenly. And it's on a 400-degree oven. So we will watch the progress as it goes. Okay, so they've been in a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes, and you want to, kind of move them around so that they get cooked evenly on all sides of the cauliflower. I love these tongs. I got them at Williams-Sonoma, and they have a magnet locking system to them so that they'll stay closed when you want to store them. And it makes doing stuff like this so much easier. So I'm going to continue to do this 2 more times, and then I will show you what I like to have the cauliflower look like as the final, when I consider it done. Sometimes you have to do it for a little bit longer than 30 minutes. So we'll see how long this one takes. So this is the 3rd time that they've been tossed, and as you can tell, I actually switched the pans around a little bit as well. And something that I like to do with this cauliflower is actually let it cook a little bit more. So I end up turning off the oven, and then I might say like it's 2:54 in the afternoon, so I might switch it to 3:15. Or I might wait till 3:15 to just pull it out for good, but just like I allow it to cool down as it's as the oven is cooling down. So once it's cooled down, you can eat it right away, or you can put it in a container. It kind of reminds me of soup because it ends up tasting a lot better the next day because all the spices and stuff have seeped in to the cauliflower, and all the oniony goodness has penetrated a little bit more into the cauliflower as well. So that's how you make crackling cauliflower. There's no dairy in it, and there's obviously no meat, so this would be considered a vegan meal. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll include the recipe in the description of this video and any other pertinent information that might be necessary. Thanks for watching. So once it's cooled down, you can eat it right away, or you can put it in a container. It kind of reminds me of soup because it ends up tasting a lot better the next day because all the spices and stuff have seeped in to the cauliflower, and all the oniony goodness has penetrated a little bit more into the cauliflower as well. So that's how you make crackling cauliflower. There's no dairy in it, and there's obviously no meat, so this would be considered a vegan meal. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll include the recipe in the description of this video and any other pertinent information that might be necessary. Thanks for watching. I'm going to do a little experimentation today. I've added 2 cups of walnuts to the crackling cauliflower, and what I'm going to do is, as the oven is cooling down, I've turned it off. So the cauliflower has already cooked for 30 minutes and been tossed 3 times in that 30 minutes. I'm going to put the cauliflower back in the oven and then let these nuts heat up a little bit, so that brings out a little bit of their natural flavor. And then we're going to put all this into the Vitamix with a little bit of chicken broth and make a soup out of it. And the reason that I wanted to add the nuts is that not only for flavor but also for protein. So we will pull it out in just a little while. About 15 minutes I think is what I'm going to do. So I left them in the oven for another hour. It really, I mean, the oven's pretty much cooled down. This allows me to make the soup right away with the walnuts and not worry about the pan being too hot. And that's about the consistency that you want it. I like, you can see how the portions without the walnuts got a little bit darker, and I like it to look about like that. Okay, so I've added all of the cauliflower and all the ingredients from the crackling cauliflower into the Vitamix, and you can see I put just a tiny bit of organic vegetable broth in there, so that it will have enough liquid to move around. And my goal with this is to get it to kind of be like a puree, like a tomato basil soup puree. Now, if you have a Cuisinart, you could certainly do that in a food processor or a Cuisinart. I'm going to use my Vitamix 5200 to do it today. So I'm going to turn it on. And then just slowly increase the speed. So we probably need a little bit more liquid. That's why it's complaining. So let's do that real quick. And the blade's spinning. And this is something that you just, you gotta eye. We might need to use a tamper. I wouldn't mind for this to be a little bit chunky, so that's why I just kind of want to eye it. It's funny how different the color changes when it gets, I guess that's the white of the cauliflower, right? So this is cauliflower and walnuts. So the crackling cauliflower with walnuts added. The nice thing about the tamper with the Vitamix is there's no way that you're going to hit the blades. They've engineered it so that that's not possible. Because that is something that is very typical for a klutz like me. I'm going to add a little bit more vegetable broth to kind of get it to the consistency that I'm looking for. In a food processor, you might just want to go at this a little bit more slowly, not put the entire contents of the cauliflower in the food processor, because you can't really have it tamper. This might be good too as like a hummus. So I think this is actually going to be better as kind of a hummus, if you will, and with the Vitamix, which is nice, all you have to do is pour it out of there into whatever container you're putting it in. So it ends up being a really fun consistency. I mean, it literally looks like hummus. You could, of course, you know, add more liquid and add it slower to make it more of a soup, a chunkier soup. But I'm excited about this hummus because I have some crackers that I've been wanting to try, so we'll use it as a cauliflower dip instead. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.